Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is David. Now, if you are active in the Sarasota property market at the minute, you've probably felt a shift in the air in recent months, because the number one question I'm getting from clients all over is whether or not now is actually a good time to buy or sell. Well, the latest data for August 2025 is in, and it's painting a pretty interesting picture. And there's one number in particular that stands out and perfectly captures this new market reality. The time it takes to sell a home in Sarasota has jumped by over 50% in the last year. Now today I'll break down exactly what's happening, what it means for buyers, sellers and investors, and what I see coming next. Before we do so, however, if you find this video useful, it would be very appreciative if you could give it a thumbs up below, as this will help us keep atop of the algorithm and help others in your situation find the same information. Okay, right, let's get into it. All right, so what is the big story in Sarasota right now? Well, in a nutshell, we are still transitioning from that red hot, almost frantic seller's market to a much more balanced market. Now, this is a crucial shift, and it's the healthiest thing that could have happened, to be perfectly honest. And these changes are being driven by a few key factors that you should know. First and foremost, for buyers, you have a lot more choices. The number of homes for sale, what we call active inventory, is up almost 14% from this time last year. But here's the really interesting part. New listings are basically flat. They're down just 0.4%, which is nothing from this time last year. This tells us that we're not seeing a flood of sellers panicking and trying to get out of the market. No, instead what we're seeing is a gradual, healthy increase in the supply of homes that are taking a little bit longer to sell. This is normalization, not a crash, despite what many YouTube housing doomers are saying. Secondly, the market is undeniably slow. There's no getting around that fact, but demand is still surprisingly strong. As I mentioned, homes are taking longer to sell. The median time to get a property under contract now is up to 69 days. That's up from 45 days last year. This means the days of homes flying off the market in a single weekend are, for the most part, behind us. However, don't mistake this for a lack of interest. New pending sales, which is a great looking forward indicator of future closings, are actually up over 14% year over year. This tells us that buyers are still very active and are eagerly taking advantage of the increased inventory and slightly lower mortgage rates we saw in August. So it's going to be very interesting to see September's data once it's released and how this impacted buyer activity, because we saw the 30-year mortgage rate continue its downward trend towards 6%. And finally, let's talk about prices. Despite the slowdown and the headlines you might see, the median sales price for a single family home across Sarasota County is holding steady at $475,000. Now that's exactly the same as it was a year ago. So this is a sign of a market that's stabilizing and finding its footing, not crashing. Interestingly enough though, the average sales price is actually up 4%. Now this suggests that the luxury market is actually still performing quite well, which is obviously pulling that average up, but we'll touch on that a little later. So if you're a buyer looking for somewhere in Sarasota right now, what does all this mean for you? Well, to put it simply, this is the best opportunity you've had in years. The power is well and truly shifting back in your favor. First, you have more negotiating power. For the first time in a long time, you have breathing room. You can take your time to look at properties and don't have to feel pressured into making a snap decision in a high-stress bidding war. And sellers are more willing to negotiate. That's just the fact right now. The list to sale price ratio has dropped to 92.3%. This means that on average, homes are selling for about 8% below their original asking price. This is a clear, data-driven sign that you have room to negotiate on both price and terms like closing costs or repair credits. Secondly, we've touched on this, but you just have a lot more choices. With inventory up nearly 14% from this time last year, you can be more selective and find a home that truly fits your needs without making major compromises. This is especially true in that $400,000 to $600,000 price range, where we've seen the biggest slowdown in sales. So if this is your price point, you are in a very good position right now. And thirdly, the competition is just less fierce. That 53% increase in time to contract is going to be your best friend. It means you're far less likely to find yourself in a stressful multiple offer situation, and instead you can make a rational offer based on the home's value, not on the fear of losing out to another buyer. Now let's flip the coin. Now, if you're thinking about selling your home in Sarasota, this new market requires a completely different strategy. The list it and it will sell itself approach, or testing the market strategy, is officially over. Well, if you're serious about selling and want results, anyway it is. First and foremost, patience is a virtue. You need to be mentally and financially prepared for the possibility that your home may well be on the market longer. With a median time to contract of 69 days, you should be thinking in terms of months, not days. This isn't a reason to panic though, it's a sign of a normal, healthy market, but it does mean you need a solid marketing plan and the patience to be able to see it through. Secondly, and this is the most important point for sellers, Pricing is everything. In a market with more inventory, you have to price your home competitively right from day one. Overpricing your home is the kiss of death in a market like this, and buyers today are educated to that fact. Remember, you're not pricing your home based on what your neighbour sold theirs for last year. You're pricing based on the most recent comparable properties price drop. As you can see from this chart, the market is performing very differently depending on the price point. That middle of the market range is where sellers are facing the most competition. So it will only cause your property to sit, accumulate days on market, and become stale in the eyes of buyers, ultimately leading to a lower sales price than if you'd priced it correctly from the start. And third, well, condition is key. With more choices, buyers can afford to be picky. So your home needs to be in top condition to stand out. This means making any necessary repairs before you list, decluttering every room, and ensuring your home has very good curb appeal. The homes that are move-in ready are the ones that are selling the fastest and for the best price. All right, for all the investors watching, this shifting market is creating some very interesting opportunities if you know where to look. First, that middle market we just talked about is where you might find some of the best deals. The 400 to 600,000 price range is showing the most weakness, with sales down almost 16% year over year. That is where you're likely to find more motivated sellers and the potential for value add opportunities. On the flip side though, the luxury and entry level markets are still performing okay. The luxury market, and for the benefit of this video, we'll say homes over $1 million, is still going strong, with sales up almost 15% from this time last year. This shows the incredible resilience of the high-end Sarasota market, and at the other end of the spectrum, homes under 250,000 are in extremely high demand, with sales up dramatically. So if you can find inventory in this price range, it remains a fantastic long-term investment play. Finally, let's talk about cash. Now, cash sales make up over a third of this market. So having cash absolutely gives you an advantage in negotiations. However, with the market slowing down, sellers are more willing to work with finance buyers, especially those who come to the table with strong pre-approval from a reputable local lender. So to wrap it all up, the Sarasota housing market in August 2025 continues to be in a period of normalization. Not a crash by any means, but it is significant and a healthy shift away from the unsustainable frenzy we saw a few years ago. For buyers, this is a golden opportunity. You have more choices, more time, and more negotiating power than you've had in years. For sellers, it's time to be realistic and strategic. You need to price your home correctly, be patient, and make sure your property is in pristine condition. And for investors, well, there are clear opportunities in the middle of the market, while the luxury and high-end segments continue to show impressive growth. Looking ahead, the big question is, where do we go from here? The strong pending sales numbers tell us that there is still a deep well of demand for homes in Sarasota. As mortgage rates continue to stabilize or even hopefully decline, we could be in for a very active fall and winter season. The key is to understand that this is a more nuanced market today. It's no longer a one-size-fits-all situation. Your success, whether you're buying or selling, will depend largely on having a clear strategy and working with an expert who truly understands the dynamics of our local market. Now, if you have any questions about the Sarasota market, or if you're thinking about making a move and want a personalized strategy call, please don't hesitate to reach out. All my contact information is right here and in the description below. I'm obviously here to help anyone with any questions. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And if you found this information valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next market update. I'll see you all in the next video.